met you in the half-light, where the signals hum and fade, words hanging like laundry on a wire we never made. Your eyes were doing circles like a compass without north. I was counting all the seconds I've been walking back and forth. The clock was missing numbers, the street forgot its name. Every thought I carried felt borrowed, bent and strange. You spoke in quiet riddles, like rain against the glass. I felt something loosen that I didn't know I had. So tune your heart a little closer to mine. Let the static fall behind. We don't need a perfect line, just a frequency that holds through time. I've been trading paper promises at corners of the day, watching shadows sell their stories, then quietly walk away. But you stood like a question that refused to disappear, like a song I didn't know, but somehow always here. Your laugh moves slow and sideways, like smoke across the room. I followed it instinctively, like moths follow the moon. Every step between us shortened, though we didn't move it all, like gravity remembered why it had to fall. So tune your heart a little closer to mine. Let the static fall behind. We don't need a perfect sign, just a signal that survives the night. If love's a map with half the roads erased, we'll read it by the scars we trace. No fireworks, no closing door, just echoes learning what they're for. Now the world keeps spinning stories it insists are true, but I hear a softer rhythm every time I look at you, like something ancient waking underneath the noise, a quiet stubborn harmony that never begs for choice. So tune your heart a little closer to mine. Let the static fall behind. In the spaces between the lines is a connection learning how to shine. No names carved in stone tonight, just two voices finding light, holding on. Not too tired, listen until it feels right. Oh, 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 oh.
Okay, I think it worked this time. Let me just, okay, we need to get the people in Oh, great. We're going to have this problem again with, oh, there we are. With Substack. So yesterday, I appreciate everybody. I did the RMTP with Substack. It's going to take a little bit of work, but I think we're on the road to some greatness, and I appreciate all of you. I don't have my cup of coffee today, but what I do have instead is today I have a little mixture. It's my fiber and electrolytes and all this sort of stuff as I'm trying to be a little bit more healthy, and I've already had my coffee, but I hope you have yours, and we can sit back and chill and relax together. And what do we do before we sip our fiber, electrolyte, whatever it is? We do that by celebrating Canada's newest land acknowledgement, which is going to be, as I'm told, officially adopted by the Canadian government. That's right. This has the blessing of the Carney government itself. And the new land acknowledgement is this. We'd like to gently acknowledge that we're standing on the traditional territory of, well, who cares? Whoever was here savagely killing and genociding each other at the time. They're not in charge anymore, so just leave us all alone. All right? Sip. Apparently, there's some people getting upset with that. But what can I tell you? You know, you can't make everybody happy all the time. So sometimes you just got to get under people's skin a little bit. But you just want to make sure it's the right people. That and don't do it with malice. Like, I'm not trying to be malicious. This is just, fun and games, and we're all tired of the nonsense and stupidity. So welcome from Canada, where I will be for a few more days, and then back and forth, and then down south. Canada, the country now poorer than the state of Alabama. So great, we're top of the list of something. So congratulations to Canada. I think there's one person today who is thrilled about the big news we're going to talk about in a little bit. That is the Iran situation. And, we hope all the good people in Iran who have been wanting freedom their entire lives, most of them, we hope you get it. And the one person who is really overjoyed with what's happening in Iran has got to be Bill Clinton. Because if you know, Bill Clinton did his deposition yesterday, and Bill Clinton was likely to be what everybody was going to talk about today. And, it seems like the Iran situation just saved Bill. So congratulations, Bill Clinton. Just a little item on that. Some people were talking about how he's not answering questions and he's evasive. You have to remember, this is a deposition, like a discovery. It's yes, no, I do not recall. This is not the trial. This is just depositions. So the idea is just short answers, not to actually litigate things in a deposition or discovery. Anyways, so we're not going to be talking about Bill Clinton today. So Bill Clinton, slippery Bill, he gets through yet again. He's got to be the happiest guy today. He woke up. Thank you, thank you. I don't like Trump, but thank you, Trump, for doing this. Today might be a good day to try the Epstein cognitive dissonance test. For those of you who weren't here when we went through this a couple of times in the past couple of weeks. That is, I was trying to find a framing where some of you can experience what Scott Adams had talked about, what you see in people when you slip in the cognitive dissonance. I've done it with people before face to face, and it's part of the process of trying to help people reset their frame, which you can't always do, but sometimes you can. And the idea is to just tell people who are obsessed with the Jewish conspiracy or Israel or the Jew fetish or the Israel conspiracy, whatever they are, just to tell them, what that intersection they're trying to paint everything as Jeffrey Epstein is a little country in the Middle East, the size of El Salvador. And you basically tell them, his exact words, I don't like Israel at all. That's what Jeffrey Epstein said when he was invited to go there by Deepak Chopra. And that he was a leftist who was, much like the woke left here, funding subversion in Israel as well to undermine it. And that's when if you have somebody who's really bought in emotionally to these, the conspiracies, they're going to do one of the 7 signs of cognitive dissonance, which this is Scott's reframing around cognitive dissonance, which I think is, of anybody, it's the most effective way to interpret it. And that is, people will do one of the 7 things: change the topic, they'll mind read, ad hominem attack, word salad, an analogy instead of a reason, not an analogy to support a reason. It's too complicated to explain, or the "so you're saying" straw man. And what mind reading is what they do to Trump all the time. Oh, he's doing this because. Really? How do you know that? Or BJ is doing this because. Really? How do you know that? Unless somebody explicitly tells you. Sometimes you can infer by people's behavior, but it doesn't tell you explicitly what people are thinking, which is anyway. So that's one of the 7 signs. So given everything that's going on in the world today with Iran, that is a good exercise to practice to see how people behave, and then maybe you can catch that behavior in yourself or the people around you who you love on certain topics, and help them, resist the temptation for brainwashing, which is what it is. Has anybody checked on Tucker Carlson today? How's Tucker? Sounds like Tucker might be having a rough day today. We'll get to that in a couple of minutes. Good morning, Beth. Your intro song is on replay in your YouTube stream. Not sure what's going on. Really? Hold on. Let's see what's going on in the YouTube stream. Is there a problem? I guess we're going to have to do... I'm trying to get away from this whole idea of we're doing tech support while we're doing the stream, but I guess we're going to have... Okay, that's trend. Well, no, that's not it. Let's go and let's see. I'm going to go to the YouTube. You're going to hear a little bit of feedback in a second because I'm going to have to check and diagnose this thing right now. No, I'm... Okay, let me see. I think Beth... One second. No, Beth, I think that might be on your end in your cache or something, because I'm looking at it right now. No more. I refreshed it and it's working. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Risa is sipping espresso. All right. Well, that counts as coffee. Listen, we are open and inclusive on whatever drink you want to drink today. You want to have scotch? Go ahead, have scotch. But anyways, so that's I'm not sure where Tucker Carlson's today, but I did post an excerpt from yesterday's stream. That was the excerpt from his father, Richard Carlson, who would likely be Tucker's political enemy today. And that is the power of brainwashing. And we are going to talk more and more about that over the long term. For those of you who watched Scott Adams, he touched on this stuff a little bit, quite a lot, actually, because he's had very similar training in communications and reaching people and all that sort of stuff. And I'm going to do my best to try to interpret things in a not the same way, because there are things we disagreed with, but understanding what's kind of pushing people, motivating them emotionally, which is how most of us are motivated. We talked a little bit about Mexico. We'll shelve Mexico for a little bit, but let's get on to a couple of fun topics, and then we'll get on to the main event. It's so good. It's so funny what's happening today. All right. So over on Bluesky, which I encourage all of you to go to Bluesky just for comic relief. It seems, I think I mentioned this before, that Luke Skywalker has lost his mind completely, or at least his PR agent who is running his social media. And, like all champagne socialists, it's interesting that they try to play the victim while having immense influence that you could only dream of, yet they play the victim. It's absolutely astounding. It's what happened during the trucker convoy. The guy's prime minister of the country and trying to play the victim and crying like a baby. Like, that's not the way it works. God. Oh, it's so pathetic. Anyways, so what's funny about what's happening on Bluesky with Luke Skywalker is the actual socialists, they're not having any of it. They're so angry. It's interesting to watch The young socialists tar and feather Luke Skywalker for being part of the big, bad, evil 1%. So there you go, the snake eating its tail, as it always seems to do. And despite that, he or his account seems to still double down on the victim status of being Luke Skywalker. How quickly will that end, do you think? Do you think that's going to spiral? I think it is, probably over the long term, but we'll feed the fire a little bit as much as we can. All right. The other thing that's come up that's quite interesting, and I think might be related to what's happening today, is Anthropic. So, for people who don't know, Anthropic is that's the Claude AI model. The name of the company is Anthropic, and the owner, whose name escapes me, but we discussed him yesterday. Owner, should I say founder? He was a developer at OpenAI who left OpenAI to create Anthropic. Was that called Character first? I'm trying. There've been so many things move so quickly in AI. Sometimes it's hard to keep track. But so according to what's happened over the past couple of days, and this is an article in TechCrunch. It's important to read perspectives across the board. So I grabbed a bunch of things on this issue. It's very interesting what's happening. So first, as we know, I wrote his name down. It's Dario Amodei. And he said that on Thursday of last week that he cannot in good conscience allow the Pentagon to have unrestricted access to its AI systems. Now, that is a vague term. What does that mean? Unrestricted access. So if I sign up for a service, I don't have access to absolutely everything. Is that what the Pentagon wanted? I'm not sure. I'm going to try to be charitable on both sides of this debate. So, anyways, but it's interesting to see what's happening because it gives you a little bit of a window to what goes on in the world. But again, we're only seeing 30%. There's way more behind the scenes, right? So the Department of War, which is Pete Hegseth's department, already had a contract with. Claude already had a contract with the Department of Defense or Department of War. They already had been working together. And the Pentagon wanted lawful use without constraints. Again, what does that mean? This is coming from TechCrunch, so where you're getting the left-wing spin on this. What does that mean? They said lawful use, okay, without constraints. Okay, does that mean I'll be able to generate, I don't know, memes of celebrities? I'm not going to have that restriction anymore? Or like ChatGPT, every time I try to plug anything in for the streams, it says, oh, we cannot discuss that topic. That's a forbidden topic. Is that what the Pentagon wanted? I don't know. We don't know. Nobody gives any specificity on this issue. And Anthropic claims that the Pentagon wanted two things, that this was their red line in the sand that they're not willing to pass. And yes, we are going to get to Iran, I promise you, Iran and Trump, yes. Using the two things that, according to Anthropic, the Pentagon wanted was to use AI for mass surveillance of American citizens. Is that what the Pentagon does? We'll get that in a second. And two, use it to make fully autonomous weapons. Okay, so the first thing is, who wants to tell Anthropic, or at least this is how it was reported, who knows? The reporting is never accurate, so maybe we got to tell TechCrunch. But the Pentagon does not track, as far as I know, American citizens. That is, the Department of War is for going to war, usually overseas. It's similar to the intel agencies. You hear about CIA all the time. CIA is supposed to be foreign, right? They're not supposed to operate internally. That's what the FBI is for. And, there's crossover, and I guess that's where the friction comes from. But the Pentagon the U.S. military doesn't operate, doesn't track American citizens unless maybe they joined the ISIS. Maybe they're like the Canadian ISIS fighters we're trying to bring here. Like that's the only thing I can think of. But even still, that would be handed off to intelligence agencies. Like, the SR-71, the U-2 program for surveillance, that was run by the CIA. That wasn't run by a military. And I don't know. I'm just confused because it's so vague. So we're not getting specificity. And so whatever. Well, I'm trying to be charitable to both sides. I'm going to get to Anthropic being charitable to them in a couple minutes. So the Department of War said they don't want to track U.S. citizens. Okay, that would make more sense. But they want to use Claude without restrictions. Maybe they can't divulge why they need unrestricted access due to leaks. I don't know. Because apparently Claude was used extensively in capturing Maduro in Venezuela through Palantir. So Palantir has some sort of deal with Claude utilizing its models. And apparently ever since Maduro, the U.S. government has been in negotiations with Anthropic for its model. So something about its model has been very helpful in their success in Venezuela. Look what's happening today. Maybe this is why. Because the U.S. government got very upset and pushed back harshly, as Trump did in his post, which I don't have here, but you can check on True Social. People are posting it all over the place. That the penalty to Anthropic now apparently is something to the effect that any company doing business with Anthropic would be named as a red flagged to not be able to do business with U.S. government. And the latest one was Anthropic by Department of War was listed as a massive security risk. Okay, why? When we don't know the full story, we often interpret, well, that just sounds like it's excessive. Is it? Maybe there's a reason for it that we don't know, or maybe not. Maybe they are being, overly heavy-handed. And I'll argue the other side in a couple minutes. Anthropic has made, they released a statement, and they've made it very clear. They've cut all access to the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party, and they said they're concerned that Claude still hallucinates. So are you saying the product doesn't work well enough? I don't know if I'd put that in a presser, but the CCP, okay, but there are other security risks around the world, right? Why did they just focus on that? Or was that a topic of the negotiations? Again, we don't know. We don't really know. I'm going to try not to infer too many things, right? And Anthropic asked to carve out these two use cases, the one with the using it for mass surveillance of American citizens, which I'm not sure that's what they would be doing, but maybe they would. I don't know. And to make fully autonomous weapons. Okay, now, I'm sure you're like this too. I'm of two minds on this issue, which is important. Why it's to understand, all sides of perspective, and I think there's more than two sides, to be honest. But I get that the U.S. government sees it as a security asset, given what's happened with Venezuela, right? But then the other side of me is like, what happened to just starting a business and the government just leaving you alone, right? And it's my business and I've developed it. And if you want to use our service and you want to use it beyond our parameters, then go build your own. I mean, that was also the lefty thing during Twitter until Twitter was bought by Elon Musk, and then all of a sudden they flipped, right? So again, nobody is morally consistent, right? But I think maybe perhaps this has something to do with Iran. They had major success in Venezuela. Maybe there are American citizens in Iran playing for the other team, and that's why the Pentagon wants unrestricted access, because maybe there are people on the other team utilizing Claude for the IRGC to fight back as at the American forces. that would be called a traitor, right? So maybe that's where things are. I don't know, but maybe. I can only see that as maybe the fact that there's some sort of unrestricted access or extreme access from the other side using Claude. So this is interesting. This now becomes what, the first AI war, where both sides are fighting for AI supremacy to win on the battlefield. Is that what's happening? I don't know, but that would explain what we would think is irrational behavior by the Pentagon, but maybe it's not, right? Maybe we're just watching, And by the way, if you think the military is irrational, you're watching way too much left-wing propaganda. There are, knowing people in law enforcement and in the military, whether you like them or not, they are pragmatic. You have to be pragmatic to survive. So I don't know. I think it's just an interesting exercise. I think we are experiencing maybe the first AI war, and that's why there's such passions, extreme passions on both sides. Heidi, I'm so glad we did the land acknowledgement. Heidi, for you, I won't abandon it. The problem is we need to get it codified into public policy in Canada. I think the chances of that happening. I'll push it. I'll try. I don't care. It's fine. Anyways, okay, so let's talk about what's going on in the world today. And I think eventually people who are confused on this issue, I think they will understand. I think most of them will understand. The 15% will never fully buy in. That's just kind of the way people are wired. But can you imagine what the world will be like if this particular problem is solved in the Middle East? I once heard that this was the primary national security issue around the world, that if Iran was solved, then it's not going to fix everything, of course, but it fixed the majority of subversion tactics that are being used in the West right now. And we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. But first, I'm going to preface this by saying this may upset some of you. I still love you. We may disagree. I'm going to try to give what I think is the best argument on this side, and that doesn't mean you have to agree with it, but just listen to it. And, I think I understand the argument from the other side, the more isolationist one, not the people who are deceptive and, working with foreign interests, but the people who legitimately are just like, hey, man, I'm just so tired of war. Like, I get that. I understand that. I think, unfortunately, it's a part of human nature. It's one of our, and not you, not I, but there's bad people around the world who just want to do bad things. And if you go and live in a third world country where they have these major security lapses and security gaps, and you see people get executed for stupidity by either paramilitaries or guerrillas, then you realize, yeah, unfortunately, there are some people that are just garbage, that are just effective, unfortunately. So don't get upset at me. Just going to share some ideas and let's get through them together. And you'll tell me at the end, do you think this is somewhat persuasive? Doesn't mean you agree, but that I've put things forward in a way that is least digestible to people who disagree. And if you agree with me, great. How do you think people who disagree would respond, right? So this has been going on with Iran. This issue has been going around Iran. It's been going Iran now. It's been going along now for 47 years since the U.S. embassy was attacked in Tehran, right? And we know that there's been buildup for many months, and that there's, especially in the recent weeks, we've seen tracking of military flights taking off at bases all over the eastern coast of the United States. The Gerald R. Ford aircraft carrier just came into the region a few days ago, if I'm not mistaken. And you saw the propaganda by that. What's that guy's name? He's that McGregor, who clearly is also brainwashed as a Duganite, is putting nonsense that the military soldiers are sabotaging the plumbing in the Gerald R. Ford as protest. Yeah, that doesn't work. That doesn't happen. And he would know that. He would know that. Anybody who's done military service knows that basic training beats that out of you. That's how they can go to. Somebody was explaining this to me who was in the military. I said, what about when they go to, communities where you have gangs, Crips, Bloods, all that sort of stuff, and they go and they join the military? And he said, it's not perfect, but the military basic training does a really good job of beating that out of you. Which is kind of the purpose of military training from a psychological standpoint, right? So, anyways, the Gerald R. Ford has gotten into the region, and it's funny. There's many people that were really frustrated that Trump was, in their opinion, acquiescing by negotiating with the Death to America people. That's, by the way, what I call Iran. And it's interesting, all these people who claim the Patriot label are there to protect the Death to America people. I've never been able to square that circle myself. But I think the first thing is this going to be Venezuela 2.0? So if you remember, Trump was negotiating. People were getting upset because he kept, we'll negotiate. He made threats. They did the bombing in the nuclear site and then went back to negotiations. And it was back and forth, right? In limbo, like it always is with the Death to America people in Iran. And, there were people that were celebrating, like Tucker Carlson and that crew were celebrating a possible return to Obama policy. What? Okay. In the form of the JCPOA, right? That was the deal that was negotiating that basically allowed Iran to once again continue seeking nuclear technology for nuclear weapons while saying they weren't, right? It's funny, they could do a thorium nuclear reactor now that China's perfected that technology, and they're working with China. But no, they didn't want the thorium nuclear reactors. They want the Iranian one, which is the only one you can enrich uranium with because, it's not thorium. So, and yes, I know thorium's experimental, but I think they have 2 plants already online in China as far as I'm concerned, at least according to the Chinese government. Who knows if that's true or not, right? But, it's funny. You hear people on that side of things, on the far left side of things, they'll just kind of dismiss things like, they always say nuclear. For 20 years, they've been saying Iran's going to have nuclear weapons. It's always the same old. Well, because this is the strategy. This is what the mullahs do. It's what a lot of your politicians do. It's probably what you saw with the depositions this week. It's called running out the clock. And 1 minute we'll negotiate, and then 2 weeks later, no, we're not negotiating, not negotiate, back and forth, because they know that in the American system, the administration has 4 years, maybe 8 years max, right? So, and also tethered to that, the degree of political entryism from proxies of the Iranian mullahs in the United States operating and lobbying, working with, affiliated proxy groups. They know that the United States can flip on a dime. Next election, then the Democrats get in, and those are their boys, right? The Democrats are never going to attack them because they're weak. That's why Islamists always support left-wing parties no matter what, and our idiot conservatives in Canada never get it through their head. Never get it through their head. They show up with the conservative leadership for take a picture to show the leaders of their community they're in charge, and then they go vote for the liberals behind their back because the liberals are weak. So it's the same strategy in the United States, right? And they think although the U.S. administration's got 4 years, they'll be there forever. So they just got to run out the clock, right? So it's and this is, by the way, this has been the strategy since Jimmy Carter. The Iranians have been doing this nonsense. Oh yeah, we're going to negotiate in 2 months. 2 months comes by. Okay, now we're not negotiating. They're just running out your clock, right? And do you know how they took Iran, the Death to America people who are in charge, the mullahs who are in charge of Iran? Do you know how they took it? The same way, the exact same way, actually, that the proto-commies who became commies took Venezuela, when Hugo Chavez took Venezuela, and then followed up by Maduro. Everybody blames Maduro. You should be blaming Chavez. Chavez is the one who started all this stuff. And the same as the collectivists tried in Colombia with Petro, which luckily he's been very unsuccessful and was absolutely destroyed in their midterms and is about to be out of office in May. It's the collectivists, by the way, the collectivist/Islamist Red-Green Alliance. They use the radical left, useful idiots in academia, students on campus, to brainwash them, and people in politics through political entryism to overthrow the government. That's what they did in Iran. And this is what they're doing in the West. Looks familiar, doesn't it? Doesn't this sound familiar? It's because it's a template. It is a playbook. And it's used over and over again. If you understand the philosophy that runs these people, then it is so predictable. That's why Trudeau was so predictable in Ottawa, because he's one of them. And by the way, this is why Yuri Bezmenov's videos resonate so much 30 years into the future, because this is the exact strategy, right? And by the way, a thing on Yuri Bezmenov, I think most of you know who he is. If you don't, search him online and watch his recorded speeches, his comments from the early 80s. I think it was 84. Most of them are for 84, 85. But when he defected from Russia, from the Soviet Union, where did he come? Right here, Toronto. He came to Canada. And he worked at the CBC until he realized, and this is back then, this is in 84, he realized, or late 70s, I think, as he got here, he realized he's surrounded by communists, the pro-Soviet communists in the CBC. Now, things never change, right? It's the enemy media network. And then he moved and became a professor at the University of Toronto. And guess what? What do you know? You find a whole bunch of communists again, right? And he warned about what was going on in the West and the tactics that they're using and this playbook. Why? Because he created it. He was one of the people, he's third in charge of what was going on in the USSR. This was his model, and he perfected it in India. He explains it. And it's that process of demoralization, destabilization, crisis, and normalization. And that's how you subvert a Western democracy. He created this. It's amazing that the Tucker Carlson people who love Yuri Bezmenov cannot see that's exactly what Alexander Dugin is doing to them, right? Wears Christianity as a skin suit, but he's a communist. It's really weird. But anyways, okay, so let's get back on to the Death to America people. For that reason, for everything that we're seeing, that's, the 47 years of Iran and the stability. This is why he killed Soleimani in his first term. Soleimani was really the mind behind all the proxy bombings. There's the Amia bombing in Argentina. There's an excellent documentary you gotta watch. It's on to understand how Iran operates outside of Iran. It's the documentary about Alberto Nisman, who was the prosecutor in that case in Argentina. It's called, I can't remember, Nisman, the prosecutor, the president, and something. Now I forget the name of it. If you go to Netflix, type in Alberto Nisman, watch it. Yes, you got to watch it in subtitles if you don't speak Spanish, but it is really good. Really, that is the textbook of how Iranian proxies like Hezbollah, which are all over Brazil right now, and we're all over Venezuela, although I think they're being weeded out. That's how they operate in the Western world. It's how they're operating in Canada and in the United States, but to a much greater degree in Canada. Right? We have 100,000 Hezbollah fighters in Canada. Hezbollah are the death to America people. So for all of these reasons combined, plus the fact that the regime has never been so weak, and there's also geopolitical things we'll get into in a second, that is the reason the United States, along with Israel's Air Force, have launched an attack on Iran. By the way, I said the word Israel. Did that upset any of you watching now or in the future? do you get angry if you're one of those people? And this is not a criticism. I'm legitimately, genuinely asking you. If you're, are you one of the people that got angry when you hear the word Israel, that the U.S. and Israel are attacking Iran? Do you get, that simmering anger below that you can't really contain when you hear the word Israel? There's some kid on GB News clearly was suffering that, and I watched recently in a clip from a few days ago. That if you're one of those people, if you know somebody, when they hear the word Israel, you hear America and Israel are attacking Iran, there's Israel is blah blah blah, like the Dave Smith thing, or the Tucker Carlson thing. That's an indication of assigned emotional outrage. That's not their opinion. And if you're one of the people who gets angry, this is very difficult for people to swallow. But if you are one of the people that starts to build the emotional outrage, that's not your opinion. That was assigned to you, and you didn't even see it happening. It's how we operate. That's the human operating system, right? And this comes from watching too much of the Duganist frame, which is Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and there's a bunch of idiots online that have all bought into this stuff and just regurgitate it through repetition over and over again because they adopt it as almost part of their identity and they obsess over it. Because how do you feel when somebody attacks your identity? Nobody likes their identity to be attacked. They get very angry. Heidi says it's not her. Well, I'm glad, Heidi. Heidi, you are I knew you were very rational and reasonable when you said you love the new Canadian land acknowledgement. Hey, Mark. Mark Petroni is in the chat in Substack. For those who weren't listening, I was on Mark Petroni's radio show yesterday on Saga 960. You can listen to him afternoons or online. You listen to him. I usually post the link when I'm on. And I hope you're having an awesome day, Mark. Maybe we'll talk about this next time I come on the show. Anyways, okay, so more on the Death to America people. So in this, it does seem that things are not going well for the Death to America people. I'm just taking a guess at this. There's a Twitter account you should follow, Dr. Ellie David. You should all follow him. He's very interesting. He's a nationalist libertarian, same philosophy as Javier Milei and myself in many, not always, but in many realms. And he is in Israel as well. I believe he's a VC, if I'm not mistaken. But he's got some funny posts. He's a smart guy. So he's posted a couple of things. First, this is before the stream. I'm sure things are happening right now because things are very fluid, right? So IRC General Jabari, he said, he made a statement. Trump must know. Yeah, it's Trump in the plane flying. Trump must know that we will soon start using weapons he has never seen before. And he asks, a supersonic sling? Perhaps? Like, what do they got? They barely have electricity at this point. It's like China. It's collapsing from the inside. So far, General Ali Shamkhani, Khomeini, I don't. You guys got to get a different name for your mullahs. It's always the same name over and over again. But anyways, Khomeini, whichever one it is, his right-hand man was eliminated. And then, shortly after, General Mohammed Pakpour, commander of the IRGC, he was also eliminated. Having a rough day. And the IRGC is the militant wing. It's basically a terrorist organization. We'll just describe it that way. That's run by the government itself. And they're also the ones that torture Iranians who just want to take up their hijab, show their hair and go out for a night clubbing. No, you can't do that, right? So the new IRGC, the new head of the IRGC that replaced the previous head of the IRGC, who was eliminated after he replaced the previous head of the IRGC, was also eliminated. Okay. And then recently there's reports that rescue teams are digging the rubble of Khomeini's house the 85-year-old man dying of cancer, who apparently was the fierce leader of Iran, that he apparently is deceased as well. That would be amazing. That would be, that's stellar. That's when you know the regime is done. And the Iranians, what have they done? They're so stupid. They have launched an attack and fired rockets into Abu Dhabi, which is in the Emirates. And they've also launched missiles at a U.S. airbase in Bahrain. And these are countries that are trying to make alliances, these Abraham Accords with Israel. Why? Because I think they're just sick and tired of their countries being assholes. And they want to build an economy. We are in the age of technology and AI and massive improvements to our lives, and they want to participate. They can't participate if it's always, the religious cleric nonsense, right? Yeah, everybody got their own religion. Just you keep it to yourself. You do your religion. You do you. I do me, and let's work and build an economy. That's how you get peace around the world, in my opinion, right? But it's interesting. Have you noticed? You'll see them all online. The many videos of young people and people from all ages dancing in the streets in Iran. Why are they dancing in the streets? I thought Tucker Carlson said it's going to be World War III. World War III, that, whatever. Well, they do seem to be quite happy. Perhaps it's because of things like Mahsa Amini, who I think was one of the major catalysts a few years ago. She was arrested for her hijab wasn't completely covering her hair. Like some of her hair was escaping, was falling out of her hijab. And of course, like all good societies, what do you need? You need a religious police, of course, right? Nothing says freedom like religious police. And so she was arrested for her hair hanging out of her hijab, and then she was executed while in custody. And so there you go. That is the litmus test for my government is evil libertarian friends. If you complain about the government is evil and oppressive, and you don't give two shits about girls who are executed because they just want to show their hair, you're not libertarian. You are a radical leftist. Nothing libertarian about that. There's no freedom in wanting to oppress women who just want to be left alone, right? Anyways, well, you're welcome. You're welcome, Mark. It's good to see you. By the way, Mark, there's a chance I'm going to be in Tampa again after I go to Naples in a couple weeks. So I'll let you know, and maybe we can do something again. All right. So, and this is the whole point. This is the part that everybody's talking about what's going on day to day, and we don't know. It's fog of war. We're going to see lots of videos. Hopefully, this is going to be quick and easy. Quick and easy. I don't say easy, but quick, like Maduro, and that we will see the people of Iran will gain the freedom that they have deserved for so long. They really have. And anyways, so the thing that's been frustrating for me around the Death to America people is the lack of moral consistency. So yes, I've talked on the stream before. We can never be 100% consistent all the time. That's just not who people are. That's why the word hypocrisy never lands and is the least persuasive word in the English language. Yet people continue to use it. I don't know why, as an argument. You're never going to persuade people with the word hypocrisy. But a lot of people, a lot of you outside Canada, look, a lot of you know me because of the protest in Ottawa. Some of you in Canada know me because of other stuff I had done before that. Once I, decided to get involved in politics and try to move the needle a little bit towards greater freedoms away from the authoritarian abyss that we are headed towards, right? But it's over the past few years, it's been quite shocking to see some of the people who have fallen off of the moral clarity wagon. They've fallen off of, I thought they're all there with us about freedom and freedom of the individual, and they're against governments being oppressive, right? Yeah, I get it. We don't like government, but the framing that government is always malicious. I get the frustration. I know where that comes from. But once you see it on the inside, you know enough people who've worked within it, are within it now. Government is just a Dilbert cartoon. Really, it's incompetence, it's mistakes, it's slime balls who manipulate it, of course, and lobbyists and whatever. And there's people pushing back on the inside. So yeah, what does that do? That has led to the chaos that we have now in Canada, right? And in Canada, in particular, the chaos peaked. I mean, I think we're going in that same direction again right now, unfortunately. But it peaked at a while during those policies around lockdowns and mandates. And anybody who was, you know, didn't forget our Charter of Rights and Freedoms and the fact that we live in a free society was just labeled internally as policy resistant, like a communist bureaucrat. It's just really, really weird, right? But that's broadly why we were protesting in Ottawa, is very similar to what's not to anywhere the severe degree because they're so farther ahead, but for the same philosophical reasons that people are dancing in the streets in Iran right now, and the reason people are dancing in the streets in Venezuela, and people are about to be dancing in the streets in Cuba, and that's going to be amazing. We'll talk more about that tomorrow, because God, it'd be great to go to Cuba, a free Cuba, right? But Canada has been very friendly to the foreign mullahs who have invaded Iran since and took over Iran since 1979. But even trying to think how to say his name without using a 4-letter expletive. Anyways, boring Mark Carney. We'll say that. He really is. He's like half dead. You know, he reminds me of the ghoul in the TV show or the video game Fallout. I think that's a good way to. You know what? Somebody's got to do a ghoul meme of Mark Carney. Even he was smart enough to release a press release, despite the fact that he has IRGC infiltrated in his party. I guess they're going to lose a lot of political influence in a minute once they're thrown out of Iran. But it's just, he was smart enough to release a statement that we need to support the Iranian people. But for the people who supported the trucker convoy and were all against the oppressive nature of what had been happening in Canada and all across the Western world, you probably didn't know that. You probably didn't know this, that there were very influential Iranians who are involved in the Iranian pushback against the against the mullahs. That there were some of them by my side in Ottawa. You didn't know that, did you? Like staying in my hotel room or the adjacent hotel room and on the streets and trying to report back to us what's going on, how things, because remember, I midway through broke my ankle, had reconstructive surgery, and was doing all the media from the media room, which was the suite in my hotel room. But did you know that some of these people that have been leading protests around the world were by my side, helping us in Canada, trying to warn us to say, you in Canada are doing exactly what we did in Iran. Not they, but the country of Iran. And in these particular cases, these are people that were arrested by the Iranian regime, some of them tortured while they were incarcerated by the Iranian regime. Yeah, they came to Ottawa to try to help us because they saw Canada is going down the same trajectory as Iran. And I know it's difficult, but we got a small taste of it, that blackface Trudeau Carney regime, and Doug Ford as well, because he also called the Emergency Measures Act before Trudeau. That's just a small taste of what they went through in Iran and what broadly people go through in the third world, the more dangerous third world, let's say, right? Like, I don't have a single friend in Colombia who doesn't have a relative or sibling who wasn't executed by the drug cartels or paramilitaries, depending where they are, right? Similar in Mexico. Although Mexico, it's much more spread out because the geography of Colombia makes it easier for the cartels to consolidate power in the cities. But yeah, I don't know anybody there who doesn't have family that wasn't executed by the cartels. Likewise, everybody I've met in Iran who's Iranian, I don't know any of them who doesn't have family or friends who weren't executed by the Iranian regime. Maybe a little thanks to them, maybe a little support in their direction because they've been supporting us, right? It's important to have moral clarity on these issues. When you are opposed to authoritarianism, and any sort of authoritarianism, that includes theocratic authoritarianism, which is, in my opinion, often the worst kind, right? Because they use religion as justification for murdering people. And I've seen so many people lose their way and their moral clarity on this issue since the trucker convoy, parroting stupidity from adversaries of the West, right? Yes, your government and political parties and certain individuals can be quite garbage and quite evil. Blackface Trudeau comes into mind. He's more stupid than anything, right? But the philosophical framework of Western, I'm going to say this word, this is not a party, it's a painted word for some of you, but Western liberalism, as opposed to fascism, communism, socialism, feudalism, Western liberalism that we live under. It is important to maintain moral clarity on that issue. That doesn't mean that Iran shouldn't have a monarchy. Maybe that's what they want. Maybe that's better for them. Or maybe they want a Western type system. That's their decision. They have the right to sort that out from themselves, right? But everyone has the right to live freely, in my opinion. That was the ethos of the trucker protest, that we all have the right to live freely. But sometimes there are some people who need a little help, right? And sometimes helping out those people helps us in the West. In this case, the American interests are definitely helped by this. Now, the Thomas Massey, Dugan brainwashed crowd don't understand any of this. They can't see it because they've been brainwashed, right? But the maintenance of the current status quo leads to greater instability around the world. While if you take out, it's like Justin Trudeau, if you kill your enemy, they win. That's what the Thomas Massey, Tucker Carlson people are trying to sell you. They're trying to sell you Justin Blackface Trudeau's philosophy. And people can't see it and still call themselves conservative or libertarian. I don't understand. Well, I do understand because I know how people have been programmed, but that's not their opinions. This freeing of the Iranian people not only is good moral clarity, but it gives massive geopolitical stability and influence to the West, not just the United States, something we've been losing for decades and we've been screaming about. We've been crying about this for forever. Finally, there's the pushback, right? And the leeches who fund all the chaos in the world, the Communist Party, the Chinese Communist Party, Russia, and the Islamists, they have earned this severe pushback. They've earned it way more harshly than they're likely to see it from Trump. I hope the people of Iran grab all the mullahs in the street that survive and hang him from a crane the exact same way they've been hanging the regular citizens for the past decade. They need to be tortured as a message. I know it's kind of rough to say, but this is just the psychology of human beings, right? And by the way, I say Russia, not because Russia is powerful. Like, I like Russian people, Russian women especially, even though sometimes you never know if they're going to kill you if you like you, but whatever. But Russia today is a pathetic, powerless state. It's pathetic. That's the only way to describe it. The only thing they can do is fund chaos and try to brainwash people in the West, along with the MSA, which is the Muslim Brotherhood student organization on campuses throughout the West. That's brainwashing students on campus. And by the way, that's why I went on Russia Today during the trucker convoy. And you didn't notice, I shut them down immediately. It was so funny during the inquiry, that retard who was a lawyer, but one of those scam artists who works for the political establishment, attacking me to go on Russia Today. You don't understand why I went on there, you moron, because they know nothing about messaging, which is why the Conservatives will never win another election in Canada. But that's why. It's understanding that Russia is the geopolitical equivalent to the movie Mean Girls, you know? It's Regina George insisting everybody wear pink on Wednesday, and everyone else just rolls their eyes, right? That's what Russia is. It's pathetic. And remember the fear of China's dominance around the world. Oh, China, the superpower. Yeah, none of that's real, right? Once the mullahs are kicked out of Iran, China, between Venezuela and Iran, has lost 70% of its oil supply. Good luck invading Taiwan. Good luck, brother. They can't even keep the electricity on in China. You know, I learned this many, many years ago. And it's amazing. People in the West are brainwashed that China is so powerful. It is an asshole. You leave Beijing or you leave Guangzhou, you leave the main cities, and you're living 1,500 years in the past. It is garbage. That's not saying the people are, right? The Chinese people are actually quite cool. I always get along with them because they're very, I don't know, they have a certain sort of respect I have for them. But that party has destroyed their culture, right? So good luck with that. And you know, this is, I think, another example we see with the Duganites, which is the Carlson, the Fed comic, the Candace Ovens, and all that. I mean, half of them are just scam artists, right? But the ones who actually buy into this framing of the world, like Thomas Massey is a linear thinker. He cannot process the complexity of the world. That's why he gets nothing passed. He got one thing passed finally, which was the Epstein files, which were going to be inevitable anyways, because that's linear thinking. Oh, I want Epstein files. Okay, I just do this process, push, 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 and then I get them. Okay, but he's not a systems thinker. He doesn't understand all the cogs of the machine that work amongst each other to give a broader perspective of how the system works. How people like that are elected in office, I don't know, but he's from Kentucky. So maybe Randy Fine will have fun with him, right? But all of this is why the mullahs need to go, because there is a geopolitical system, and this is the cog in the geopolitical system, one of the many ones, that have been disrupting things for decades and causing chaos in the Western countries. So guess what? It's at the end. Like, this is something we should be celebrating the way the people in Iran are celebrating on the ground. And we need to be there to support them. Maureen, China is a cheap fake. Yeah, China's. China, you know, I think once. I mean, you cut off 70% of the oil supply. China's been having problems for some time, especially since COVID. I think it's only a matter of time till China implodes. I mean, people don't know in the Western world, there's been separatist movements in China for a very long time. You know, Tibet wants to separate. We know Manchuria wants to separate. The territory the Uyghurs want to separate. Inner Mongolia wants to separate. Like, it's held together with duct tape and glue, but Chinese duct tape and glue, which means the glue's going to wear off, right? So it's done. And like, these are all things, all reasons we should be celebrating. We should be happy with what's going on when people are able to achieve greater freedoms. That's what we were fighting for in Ottawa during the trucker convoy. It's just amazing. I don't know where Russell Brand is. I'm not a great thinker in my mind, as far as I'm concerned. I was quite surprised when I was on his show, but I tried to reach him, right? But, you know, there's another Duganite who's lost his mind. And you can see the ones they pick off, right? The Duganites. They pick off the people who are lost, usually have a drug or alcohol problem, like Tucker Carlson, Russell Brand, people who have strife in their life that maybe would be moved towards religion. So what do the Duganites do? They pair left-wing communism with this skin suit of religion to brainwash them. You know, it's just how they've lost moral clarity on the right for people to live freely, which is, I've maintained my consistency. And that explains also my views on Israel versus Gaza, right? Gaza used to be 80%, a high percentage of Christian, and now it's like 0 because they wiped them out. That's what happened in Lebanon as well. Happens all over the Middle East, right? Heidi says, I hope the U.S. Israel airstrike will be clean and swift. I'm willing to bet that is what Trump has demanded, right? He does not like war, genuinely, which is why he might be the best president to do this. Because having run a large bureaucracy, a large business, he understands how things can get a little out of control. So in closing, I hope I'm giving some, philosophical framing around moral clarity on this issue. We're going to see how things evolve, and hopefully it doesn't get too messy, and they just take out strategically all the mullahs and the IRGC, the people who are holding Iranians hostage, and it doesn't spiral into a bloody civil war. It might, but let's hope not, right? Let's hope the allure of a brighter, more prosperous technological future where people can achieve their aspirations will be something that the Iranian people want, whether it's through a monarchy or the monarchy brings something else in after. I don't know. That's for them to decide, right? But the world, and this is kind of the positive framing that I have about what's going on today, is that in general, that the world is in change, or it's in flux towards a better future. I mean, look, Cuba, it may become a holding of the United States. That's what I think is going to happen. I think that's the best thing for Cuba and the United States, to make Cuba like Puerto Rico. That would be great, and make it a tourist destination. And boy, that would be massive economic opportunity that would be difficult for many people to resist, to go and participate in the revitalization of Cuba. Iran is about to become friendly to the United States. China is about to become so weak, it's going to face collapse and potential fracturing of it because of its ongoing separatist movements and protests within the country. And the world is just going to be broadly more free. Again, what we were protesting for in Ottawa, greater freedoms. And all of you, this is the best part, all of you watching, all of us talking about this in the West, we're going to get all of this for free. Think about this. We just have to watch and support the good people of Iran, and we're going to get it for free. And let's hope no lives are lost in this process from American or Western soldiers, right? Mark, you think like I do. Mark, I'm trying to be positive. Mark says, what guarantees are there that, assuming that the Iranian regime falls, that the successor will be any better? Listen, there are no guarantees in life, right? We all know that. But we have to do something, right? We're not going to pull back and say we're not going to do anything because, well, maybe it'll get worse. Listen, hopefully they will do their best to help Pahlavi, who is the son of the previous king of Iran. Hopefully he can put something together, get people on the ground there that will bring it a brighter future. But I'm willing to bet, because he got Trump at the helm, who has spent an entire life of dealing with mafia, organized crime, unions, worst of all, city employees in the city of New York. Trump seems to be pretty good to know when people are giving him bullshit. And I'm willing to bet that, much like with Venezuela, the leash will be kept on very, very tight to make sure that they go in the proper direction. I'm actually quite confident with him. Anybody else in politics, I think they're completely incompetent and would have no clue how to do it. Him, because he has that skill set from the private sector, I think he'll be able to pull it off. We'll see what happens. And plus, you got the interests of Western interests from Israel there. Plus, you have all the countries that are signing up the Abraham Accords. We know Mohammed bin Salman has no patience for another mullah type regime. So I think there's just too many players in that region that will prevent that from happening and make sure it doesn't. So I hope that helps. I hope this helps brighten up your day and give a little positivity and brevity around what's going on. Freedom is difficult. Freedom is not free. But for us right now in the West, greater freedoms that we're going to see and stability across the world, to us right now it is free. And we just hope that not too many people are sacrificed in this process. But I think there's enough people willing to go the distance in Iran that the positive future is inevitable at this point. Just my perspective. You may agree or disagree, but let's hope it all works out. I think it will. All right, I love you all. Please be good to strangers, be kind to strangers, except for the guy in the ice cream van who wants to talk to little children and looks like Joe Biden. That person you don't want to be nice to. But everybody else you want to be nice to. Have a great day. I got a full day ahead of me as well. And we'll be back here again tomorrow. I'm going to stay on Substack for another minute or so while I shut this down. If anybody wants to throw any comments, I'll address that. And otherwise, I'll talk to you all tomorrow morning. All right. Have an awesome day and be good to people.